Excited tonight. Welcome to Astrology Unplugged. I see Susan out there in California. Nice to have you all with us. Things are changing. Can you feel it? It's changing so fast, fast, fast. I've been trying to get in touch. This is an astrology show where we talk about astrology basically, but it's unplugged, which means we're allowed to talk about anything we want to, which is the good part. Okay, you get as old as I am, you just change the subject whenever you want to. Anyhow, that's just how it goes. Now, I'm muting everybody. You'll be able to unmute yourself later. Okay, now, we're going to talk tonight about geniuses. And I picked out 6 geniuses very carefully with the intention of not just finding geniuses. Somebody's got their phone on. Let's see here. Somebody needs to be muted. I'm not sure who it is. You know? Okay, that'll take care of it. All right. I've been trying to focus on 6 phenomenal charts, but I'm really focusing tonight on people that are prolific, like Stephen King. They're filthy rich, but they keep writing, they keep writing, they keep writing, they keep writing. Why do they do it? The chart will show you why. When we get into these people, what you're going to find, and I really think I keep pressing the fact with you because it takes a lot of time to learn. These people usually have great inner energies and great outer energies. When you have all inner energies, Venus, Moon, Mars, you're not going to go anywhere because you're not inspired by the big planets. The big planets are what give you inspiration. Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, biggies, even Eris. And I've seen people that have all outer planets. Pluto, Neptune, Uranus. They're not going anywhere because they're busy going in circles because they're so complicated. They don't have any connection to their personal planets. So they go around mumbling to themselves, and if you are able to turn the microphone up and hear what they're mumbling, they're really mumbling genius stuff. But they can't communicate because they don't have any connection with outer and inner planets. These people all do. You can still have beautiful connection to outer and inner planets. Doesn't mean you're going anywhere. You still got to do the work, and it's still very karmic. The first thing I wanted to mention before I get into these people, next week we're going to launch, and I'm not going to go into it now. We're going to launch on a video, it's about 10 years old, about a woman who was a brain neurologist or something like that. Her name was Jill Bolte, B-O-L-T-E, Jill Bolte Taylor. And I'm not going to talk much about her, but during the week you may want to look up her story. She has about a 20-minute story on YouTube. We're going to be talking about a lot about the left half of the brain and the right half of the brain. And then in 2 weeks, I think it's the 7th of July or the 12th, one of those, 7th or the 12th, we will have a wonderful guest, the Reverend Todd Foster from Pittsburgh, who is a fabulous, he is a Reiki master galore. He's exceptional with clearing houses, clearing you from attachments to other types of spirits. He's a master with the pendulum and many, many other things. Thank you, Karen. That'll be on July the 12th. Todd Foster will be with us, and he really is a powerhouse, and I brought him to clear my house. He cleared my house from across the country, so he doesn't have to be in your house to do it because of the lack of space. Anyhow, what got me going about next week, I'll mention this one thing, and then we will get into tonight's issues. I listen very carefully to the things people say. And I listen because I have a lot of Aquarius in me. And the thing about Aquarius is Aquarius or strong Uranian people understand the ramifications. This is a very big deal. A lot of people, well, this happens, that happens. They don't care. Don't think about it. Aquarian people are really aware if this is true and that is true, then do you realize when they combine, this is a marvelous gift that Aquarian people have. So that's one of the reasons I listen. And I listen, and I've told you before, I listen when people say things like, what got into you? Well, what's come over you lately? Well, what got into Fred lately? Well, I'm not myself today. These sayings are very, very telling. And they always match the planets perfectly. Well, the one I heard the other day that knocked me out is the phrase, and you'll like this, Kara, you'll like this, Susan F. She loses herself in her artwork. She loses herself in her artwork. I got lost in myself when I was doing this. I was painting the wall and I lost myself. That's an extremely important statement that's saying a whole lot more than you realize. And what it's doing, it's pointing you towards the real you, not the one up in the head that you're thinking about. I lost myself. And when you lost yourself, things kind of go good, don't they? You go through 3 tunnels. You go through 200 miles on the highway. You know how you even got there. Then you realize you just drove it. Who was driving? Well, it's very, very symbolic. It has a lot of meaning, and I'm going to launch on that one next week. Tonight, I'm going to get started with the 6 people that I chose, and Liza was a big help helping to pick these because I told her I'm not trying to be pro-male, but I need to show more women's charts. History is just full of so many reports on males, and we're just now starting to see the women come forth. That's wonderful, and it's because of Eris. And Eris is such a big deal. Drum roll. Eris is such a big deal. I got her on my charts now. I don't put a planet on my charts unless it's a big deal. The last one I put on was Chiron years ago. And when you put a planet on your chart, everybody's chart, everything changes. Eris is a mama. She is a big, powerful deal. We're going to be talking a lot about her in the future. Then the other 80, I'm not going to put the other 80 on. I don't think, maybe one at a time, because it's getting too crowded. The first one we're going to start with tonight was absolutely phenomenal. I'm not sure if you knew this, but the seat that was just given up through his passing at Cambridge, the physicist that died. Come on, help me now.
Stephen Hawking?
Yeah, Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking had the seat of Isaac Newton. That was Isaac Newton's chair. And you don't get that chair unless you're really coming along far. Newton's chair is unbelievable. Now, we're going to talk about him in a minute, but you've got to remember that Newton is really boiling right now. He's really shaking right now because the latest discoveries, and I mean the last 100 years, last 200 years in physics, have really undone a lot of what Newtonian gravitational theory proposed. But yet, without Newton, we never make it to the moon and back. The typical gravitational laws of Newton hold the basis for physical reality. We are transcending him now, but you'll see this guy's like 1823 or something. Let's get his chart up and look at this. Just astounding chart. All right, here we go. Okay, he was an excellent astrologer, if you didn't know that. He spent a lot of time doing astrology charts. He's got an accurate birth time of 2:05 in Colsterworth, England, on January 4th in 1643 in the 16th century. 16th century. Now, you'll notice that Eris is on the chart. Eris does have another symbol. Eris's symbol is, other symbol is like a Mars hanging downward. It's a circle with a dot, and the Mars arrow hangs downward. So you can use that symbol or this symbol that looks very closely like the Pisces symbol. So I've chosen this one because it looks bigger and stronger, and that's certainly what Eris is. Now notice that he was born with the moon conjunct Eris. That's a big deal, even though Eris was not discovered for 400 years later. All right. Now, first of all, what's this guy known for? He's known for back in those days especially, understanding the nature of the universe. Well, you've got to have, being a Capricorn is going to help. A Capricorn is not open to understanding these great, profound issues. You've got to get that kind of energy from where? That knowledge, that inception, that intuition. It has to come from Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, maybe even Eris. And in the cases, guys like him and Einstein, it's got to come from all of them because they're up against so much competition. Well, what do you see here? You see Pluto next to Chiron. All right, Chiron's not discovered till 1977. You got Pluto at 2. You got Neptune almost at 1. You're going to have major aspects to the outer planets. So here you've got not only Neptune opposite Pluto, but this is only 6 degrees apart. I use 9-degree orbs. So he's got Neptune and Sag opposite Pluto and Gemini, conjunct Chiron, and they're all making a T-square to what? Venus in Aquarius. They're all making a T-square to Venus in Aquarius. So what you say astrologically is that the tension that is mounted from these conflicts of these two planets has an outlet through Venus. Now, his generation, because Neptune goes so slowly, because Pluto goes so slowly, his whole generation had Pluto opposite Neptune. But not all of them had an outlet to another planet. Venus comes by quickly. So we see the Venus in Aquarius, which is known for being very friendly, amiable, thinking about the environment, people, forward-thinking, being inventive. Certainly it's a very prolific planet, Venus in Aquarius. This is one secret that we see already. We see a birth time and we wonder about 0, almost 1 degree of Aquarius. So we know if he's born like 3.5 minutes earlier, then he's got Libra rising. And given his history, I don't think he's got Libra rising. I think the man's got Scorpio rising. Okay, but that birth chart, that ascendant changes 1 degree every 3 minutes and 56 seconds. This whole thing keeps ticking like a time clock all day long. So we do have Scorpio rising, and it makes the chart ruled by Mars. When you have a ruler of a chart, you look for the ruling planet of the sign that's rising. And one might say that Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, which is true, but there's an exception, a caveat in astrology. When you're looking at a rising sign, it can never be an outer planet. It always has to be the sub-ruler. So in this case, it's not ruled by Pluto, it's ruled by the co-ruler Mars. Now do you see how prolific Mars in Taurus is? That means I'm going to get it done, 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 I'm going to keep digging till I get it done, till I get it done and get it done. He's already in Capricorn. And the moon is in Cancer. Moon in Cancer can be very, very underrated. Cancer people can be very tenacious, very tough, very tenacious if they want to be. So we see a very strong Mars because it rules the chart. It's near an angle. It's closer to an angle than any planet. There's no planet close to this angle, none close to this one, none close to this one. So this is your most angular planet. So Mars is a big deal. But him understanding the laws of gravity and the bodies in motion definitely came to him from outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, and I guarantee you it had to come from Uranus too. It just had to. Well, what do we have? We have Uranus rising in the first house, and its opposite is Mars, his most critical planet. So Uranus is feeding into his Mars. Pluto and Chiron and Neptune are all feeding into his Venus. So right away, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 major planets feeding directly into 2 of his minor planets, his personal planets, Venus and Mars. Well, what's his Mercury doing? His Mercury's in Sag. That's the eternal student, always learning. And the Mercury is square to Saturn. And I don't care what the books tell you, all the poo-poo that books love to look down on Saturn and Capricorn and call them the malefics. But I'll tell you, the most prominent thing that famous people have, the most significant thing they have, is trouble with Saturn. Because if you don't have trouble with Saturn, you don't get off your butt and do anything. But you'll see tremendous Shakespeare, you'll see the greats of all time have lots of trouble with Saturn. And it's because Saturn, he's bugging you to get it right, get it right. So the Saturn square to Mercury doesn't surprise me at all. As a matter of fact, it's what gave him the ability to understand gravity. Because you can argue all day, and I'll argue with you. If there's any planet that represents gravity, it's got to be Saturn. Now, not only is Saturn doing that, Saturn is right next to Jupiter. Venus is being hit by 4 planets. The Sun is trine to Mars, untroubled. It's trine to Mars. The Mercury is square to Saturn and Jupiter. The Neptune is feeding across the east skies. The Uranus is opposite as ruler. And the Moon is the same degree as Eris. So we're seeing in this man, everything's involved. Everything's involved. He's got 4 fixed angles. Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus, Leo. The angles are like the boards on a kite. They're your structure. They're your wooden structure, your platform. And when you have 4 fixed angles, that makes you pretty darn stubborn. So stubborn translates into persistence. So we see a magnificent chart here, and I'm not going to go into all the different time periods, but I do think that we are early, and I do think in time we will start to appreciate how much this moon Eris means. And what I'm learning about Eris, it's going to take me time, it's a new energy, but Eris is very pissed off. She's very strong, and she can't stand anybody treated unfairly.
Where did it go?
What's that? That's what's going on now. You're seeing that all throughout the country and the world now. People are speaking up from being treated unfairly. In the past, they kept their mouths shut. They weren't ready to speak up. But that's another remarkable chart, and is a perfect example of somebody who has the outer planets mixing with the inner. And it's also a really good example of Capricorn, how they last. The Great Pyramids are Capricornian. Capricorns make sure they're rock steady And you may have your problems with them, but they're very lasting, and the work they do is lasting. Look at Reverend King, a Capricorn. Okay, we're going to keep showing you chart after chart after your chart till we make Amy fall asleep. Okay. All right. Georgia O'Keeffe. Oh my God, I was out there at her residence last year in her little inn that's named after her, and I saw the mountains that she painted. And there was one mountain that stuck out in particular when you looked at the horizon, and Georgia said, "That is my mountain." I forget the name, it started with a P. But she said, "That is my mountain." Now remember, there's no birth time here. She's born in Wisconsin, November 15th. Talk about a Scorpio. Sun, Mercury, Moon, Jupiter, opposite Pluto. You've seen the pictures of her. She looks right through you. Why? Because she looks directly at the soul of everything. When you see her beautiful landscapes, and remember, most of her life, her sight was strong, and she was married to Stieglitz, both very profoundly strong in her own art. It was only later that she had trouble with her eyesight, and she started doing more sculptures, etc. But she's known for subtlety. She's known for subtle, but yet powerful. And that tells you what? Subtle but powerful has to be Pluto-Neptune. Feeding directly into her Sun, Moon, Mercury, Jupiter. Now, not all people could do that. Remember, there's no T-square here. She has, look closely, Pluto at 4. Pluto is 6 degrees opposite the moon. But look at the Neptune at 29. 29, right opposite the Mercury, right opposite the moon, opposite the sun. So the Neptune is really, really strong. This makes her very heavenly. But the natural Scorpio in her and the natural Pluto in her, she's very heavenly, but she's piercing. She's heavenly, but she still wants to search. She's grabbing to find the beauty, the starkness. And, you know, they said that she was not easy to deal with because she was so intense. And calling all Ninkas, I wish Ninka were here tonight to tell us because she worked for her. Would be very nice to hear. Notice how the entire chart is a bucket pattern to Eris. Everything's over here, just like a fan, like a Chinese fan. And here's Eris all by itself. And in the bucket pattern, this is called the handle. And the handle is the most important aspect on the chart. If this woman was anything, she was very Erisian. I think that's how you say it. Eris-like. She was a rebel. She was a female. She didn't care about whether she's male or female. She didn't care about what the roles were. She dressed very much like a man. And she was very intense, and she was not going to be held back by the standards of the 50s and the 40s, etc. She did have Venus, Uranus in Aquarius, which definitely helped her to get inventive with her art. But her Mars was powerful. The Mars in Virgo is really significant because Mars in Virgo is, I know exactly what I want to draw. Total command of my brush. Total command of what I'm doing. But it's right opposite Eris. So this Mars, which is in Virgo, it's a personal place, which has to do with being a very good, detailed, hard worker. This Mars is never allowed to be itself. This Mars is totally commanded and controlled by Eris at all times, even though it didn't pop its head up for 200 years later. It was still affecting her at the subconscious level. She was an avatar of her time. But this is tremendous amount of persistence. And could you, if you'd like to turn your microphones on, you may, if you have an answer. What do you think the Scorpios are driving at? When you've seen pictures of her, what's she driving at? What are Scorpio people driving at when you meet them and they're dark and they're intense? What are they driving?
They want truth.
Exactly. Precisely. They want the truth. You hear it in Neil Young's music. You hear it somewhat in Joni Mitchell's. You certainly can see it. My God, in Picasso, they're digging for the truth. And they don't care who you are, what you are. Get out of my way. Yeah, Erica, go ahead, dear.
They want you to feel what they're feeling. They want you to to somehow give that to you so that you could merge into it and know what they're feeling.
I think that's very true. Now, one of the things that I have to work constantly when I'm working with them, I have to shake them and say, other people don't feel the way you do. That's really news to them. It's news to them. You see, they cannot stand the idea of being betrayed. And when they see somebody betray somebody, they want to cut their throat. And I tell them, look, you've got to understand that you have the ability to not betray or to be dedicated more than other people do. You can't hold these people to these standards. And they usually don't listen to me because Scorpio people in general do not have any patience with people who are weak. And that's one of the things you see with Georgia O'Keeffe. She's really, really strong. But Suzanne is exactly right. They're pursuing the truth, and they're pursuing it mainly in the sense of what's behind that curtain. What's behind that curtain? That's really what it's like. Very good, very good. So we see that she was outrageous. I forget where the planets were when she started going blind. I saw that. We could take a look here. Around 67, I believe, is when she started to lose her eyesight. Let's take a look. Put the outer planets on there. 1967. Okay, let's get that up. And it's usually what planet causes it. It's usually always this certain planet. What do you think it is? Neptune. Look at Neptune. Look at Neptune approaching her sun around the time she lost her eyesight. And you see how Neptune was starting into opposition to itself? Now, the chart is showing us Neptune coming across their personal planets, Neptune opposing Neptune at the time that she started to lose her eyesight. Why do you think she lost her eyesight?
Rick, from what I understand about her, I was a co-teacher of art history working in my master's. She had problems with her husband, and I think she lost faith in herself. That's just my opinion reading the art history part of it.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Two other things I will add. One, it can come about when you emotionally scream to the universe, I don't want to see that anymore. Very dangerous thing to say. Don't ever say that. If you ever get really mad one day and you hit yourself with a hammer, you yell real loud, oh, F me. Stop it right away and apologize to the universe. I didn't mean it. Oh, I did not mean to bring a Mack truck into my lane. No, I was just mad for a minute. Please forgive me. I'm very serious. These things are very dangerous. Secondly, here's what I really think happened. I think at a very deep level, she had to transcend her physical senses in order to pick up the subtlety of Neptune and blindness. I think that when she became blind, she became a completely different artist as a sculptor, because I think that in a lot of ways, she was being held back by it. I just read, it was very unfortunate this week, a very good friend of mine who I've had a lot of ability to help launch her career. Pisces woman married to another Pisces woman. Doing very, very well. Very talented healer, psychic. Well, very unfortunately, her partner, her wife, came down with cancer suddenly and died very quickly. And boy, I was so impressed talking with the one who has survived. And I said, you know, I don't mean any offense, but there's a real good chance that your partner left you because she knew that you were ready to work without her. And she agreed completely. Because there's certain places in life that this partner would not go because she had the comfort of the other partner being there. So she felt like she's working in conjunction with the partner who has moved on. She feels like she's not lost anything. She's got a great attitude by it, and she feels that it's exactly right. I think, and I don't know the story, but I think if we investigated Miss O'Keefe's life, we would have seen that she was at a final hurdle, and she could not get past that hurdle while she had the aberration of eyesight, which is showing us lies. They're telling us what we see is an illusion. That's what I'm talking about. Very intriguing chart.
Hey, Rick, can I just say something about her?
Of course you can.
Isn't it amazing that she lost her eyesight in the type of art that she did? She let us see aspects of a flower in a detailed way. And it almost brought up the spirituality of the flower. And then she lost her eyesight, so she gave us sight.
I agree with that completely, and I think that's beautifully said about her Mars and Virgo. Mars and Virgo is going to show you every detail, but eventually it's got to stop. By showing you more and more detail, you get farther from the essence. And Neptune's what brings out the essence. So I think that if we were to talk to her on her deathbed, I don't think that she would have feel that she lost that much. But it's an intriguing thing to study. Okay, number 3 on the list is Carl Jung. Carl Jung, I looked at this chart for a long time, and I read about his life, and I read his memoirs, and I was so disappointed. He was a fabulous astrologer. The last 3 years of his life, he said, don't bother me. That's all I want to do is my astrology. That's all I want to do is look at charts. He didn't even dare look at a client unless he looked at their astrological archetypal makeup. This man knew exactly what was going on astrologically, and he has a lot to do with the rebounding and the founding of archetypal astrology, which is really what I need to change my name to. But I've changed it 4 times. So I think I'll just leave it alone. I am an archetypal astrologer. I don't think I need to explain that to you. You understand the archetypes pretty well. But what got me with Jung, if you study Jung, who came up with the word synchronicity, he came up with tremendous advances in learning how to translate dreams. He didn't tell you a dream might kind of be like this. He told you this is what the dream means. Black and white. Not arrogant. Leo never worked out in terms of arrogance. He was very, I'm not even getting you the screen. He was very sure of himself. hard working, very, very prolific. Notice the sun is in Leo. What I came down to is the reason the chart fooled me for so long is the whole chart comes down to 2 planets. That's why I couldn't figure it out till about 2 years ago. It comes down to the sun and Neptune. The sun in Leo, the sun is the ruler of Leo. The sun is on the angle, 3 degrees, so the sun is really powerful. And the sun gives you a strong sense of self. Likewise, on the other hand, Neptune is right on the bottom of the chart. Well, it's not on the nadir, but it's squaring the ascendant. And the Neptune is squaring the sun. So the Neptune is extremely powerful. Neptune is next to Chiron, but more importantly, Neptune is very strong, and Neptune is the planet of the non-self. So he's got great amounts of non-self, and he's got great amounts of self. That's why it was so astounding. Because he had them both, and he was one of the fortunates who was able to balance these two. Usually people that have the non-self can't handle dealing with the self, and vice versa. He was a master at understanding both. A master at it. When he got older, he went inside his family's ceramic silo, where he had played all his life as a little boy. And the roof was all gone. It's just a ceramic silo, 10 feet across, and mostly mud and rocks, nothing in it. And he wanted to achieve the state that he was in when he was a child. He wanted to go back to that state of innocence, living in the here and now, and he would spend hours and hours and hours in his 80s playing in the mud, building with the mud, playing with the rocks, trying to get back to that state of pure innocence in the here and now. So he was really a remarkable man. Going back now. So, when you see somebody who can go into the depths of mankind, he's got to have a strong Pluto, and Pluto is getting near the nadir itself. Pluto is near the moon. It's in the sign of Taurus. He's got the strong Neptune, but he's got the strong sun. These are the things that keep him from getting lost in the quicksand. He's got enough ego that he doesn't get lost in the quicksand. Matter of fact, it even looks like he's not able to sink below the quicksand with that line right there. He's got that buoyant sense of self. That's what fooled me, and I ended up realizing how remarkable this is. Then I've also realized lately, I've been seeing and trying to break my own rules. A bucket pattern is usually planets in a row and one planet up here. Well, in his case, he's got the bucket here, and he's got one handle here, and he's got one handle here. What I have noticed, and I keep seeing it over and over, so I declare true for me, he's got a bucket pattern to Jupiter. And Jupiter in Libra in the 8th house allows him to, the 8th house is going into the taboo areas, going into the dark alleys of the psyche, to go in there and not freak out, to be smooth with it. In Libra, Jupiter in Libra operates very smoothly. So he went in and he was able to traverse some very sick patients and able to navigate his way through these people in these worlds and to come out with great understanding. He was also very good friends with Pauli, Pauli, who was one of the leading physicists of the day, one of the leading quantum physicists. So he was a very broad character. He had a lot of knowledge, but the really significant thing about his chart is the sun is so strong He's not going to deny it. And the Neptune is so strong. He was in some way able to balance the two. And that's just a remarkable thing that I would see a chart with 2 planets in it that would knock me over. Okay, let me see here. Hi, Melody. Okay, everybody, thank you. We're coming back now for part 2 here. Anyhow, just a remarkable chart. A lot of times when I read a person's life story, I read biographies, I like to have their chart next to me. And I keep it folded up, and while I read, I see when they got married, and I see when they got divorced, and I see when they got a Nobel. And I look and see, and it's just amazing to watch what planets were hitting them when these things happen. And these things are happening all the time in the world of us weird astrologers, and no one else knows about it. Okay. I've done this before, I'll do it again. William Shakespeare. What a phenomenal chart. Let me get his chart on there for you. Another Taurus. Look at the sun right next to Eris. Do you think that's a coinky dinky? I don't think so. Okay, where is this guy going to get his persistence from? We certainly know he's prolific. Where's he going to get it? Remember, he's got a birth time. He does have Pluto on the midheaven. He does have Saturn rising. He does have an opposition of Uranus. This powerful Uranus opposition to Venus, Neptune, T squared of Pluto. Do you see again how the outer planets are mixing with the inner? His ruling planet Venus is combined with Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus. You're not going to get a Taurus to write a bunch of odes. You're not going to get a Taurus to write a lot of sonnets. It's not a Taurian thing. It comes from the outer planets. The Taurus gave him the ability to sit on a wooden chair for 6 years straight, etc. I got to fix these. I've got some sound seeping in here. Okay, there we go. All right. An absolutely remarkable chart. All right. They say that 11% of the English language are words that he made up. That's pretty. I mean, the guy didn't sleep, did he? I wonder if he made up y'all or yo. Yo. All right, look, you're seeing an angular Chiron. Remember, Chiron is like looking right at Virgo. It's like right at Virgo, and it's in Capricorn, and it's right there in the 7th house, which is the role he plays with people. And he was very, very involved as an actor with the Globe Theatre in London. We almost have a bucket pattern. I don't know. Hard to tell. It's almost a bucket to the moon. The moon is opposite Mercury, which is very, very rare. To see personal planets opposite each other, extremely rare. But he's got Saturn rising. This is extremely significant. And Melody, you're talking earlier about questioning your person about Saturn, Jupiter. Here's Saturn, Jupiter again. Saturn, Jupiter is very difficult to translate because they're both social planets. They speak about how you socialize. So you see the Jupiter, he's ready to go out in a big costume and be buoyant and expressive and talk with people. And the Saturn is the opposite. The Saturn is shrinking, careful. So mix the two together, kind of interesting. He does have Cancer rising and the moon ruling his chart because the moon rules Cancer. That's how you get the chart ruler. What planet rules the sign that's rising? The sign that's rising is Cancer. So his moon in Libra is the ruler of his chart. We can certainly see that that's why he was known for such elegance in his speech. But we're not seeing the drive to the inventiveness. The inventiveness had to come from what planet? It's got to come from one place. You all, where does inventiveness come from?
Uranus.
She gets it. She gets another star on her hand. She's exactly right. It's a Uranian thing. So we got to see strong lines, strong significance to Uranus, or he wouldn't be that inventive. I would expect to see Uranus in Gemini because of all the different types of things. Marsh and I did a Shakespeare play together once. A long time ago. A long time ago. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to get the right buttons hit here. Okay. What do we see with Uranus? Okay. Uranus is here. We'll take a look. Uranus is at 7, opposite the midpoint between Neptune and Venus, and they're all T-squaring Pluto. So here's this ruling planet Venus, opposite Uranus, and they are in Gemini. So here is the source of his creativity, but here is the persistence, the prolific nature. It's coming from his Venus is attached to the three heaviest planets in the chart. Neptune, Pluto, Uranus. That's where he gets it from. If not, he's out in the garden, he's in his hobbit hole, and he's happy just to be there. That's what Tauruses do. Not this guy. Okay? The Saturn is rising. Interesting to find. I would like to find out more about his life because the Saturn is opposite to Chiron, and that's a very critical planet. And through solar arcs, I would like to know what happened to Mr. Shakespeare at age of 9, because the ascendant and Saturn ran into each other at age 9 with his father and maybe his mother being in Cancer. But I would like to know what happened to him at age 9. Saturn and the ascendant. Was he not the son of a guy who sold materials, cloth? Wasn't he? I think they had money because his father was in the cloth business, the material business. I'm not sure. But I would like to know what happened that made him pivot at age 9. But a remarkable chart, and once again, you see the Venus in Gemini with Uranus, opposite Neptune, all to Pluto. Imagine what happened when planets hit that triangle. Imagine what happened to him when planet and the air is next to his sun. He would realize he was more female at age 9. That's remarkable. Remarkable for someone in that age. Make no doubt about this whole thing about transgender and LBQT, all that going on now, that is Eris. Can you think of neutrally, think of the significance of us discovering Eris, who takes 540 years to go around a circle. And when we discovered her in 2003, she was next to Uranus in Aries. We found Eris in line with Uranus out of 360 degrees. Uranus could have been anywhere. We discovered them together. This is one reason that we're in a hell of a time now. Now, I'm going to give you the other side of the point for just a minute. As you all know, things are very scary right now. There's a lot of negative things going on. We've talked about it for years. There's a lot of really good things happening. There's a lot of really damn good people. And all I got to do is say, hooray. They just can't hold everybody down. They can't hold everybody down. I wanted to also say, I've been struggling with this. My needle for years has been pointing right to astrology. And then the last several years it's been pointing more towards A Course in Miracles. And all I can say is I'm watching it happen by itself because I don't have any control. I'm saying that I'm starting to see astrology in its proper perspective. And you've got the God self, you've got the human self, you've got a sub-layer of astrology, and then whatever else. And astrology has its place, but it by no means has all the answers. So I'm saying this class, this thing called Astrology Unplugged, is going to start leaning more and more towards truth finding, towards spiritual lessons, and I could not validate myself. I said, what gives you the credentials to do so? And I read closely by what Jesus says in the Course in Miracles. And what Jesus says is he wants us all to be teachers. And what we teach, we are teaching ourselves. So I don't claim to be teaching anybody anything. I'm teaching myself. And if you happen to get some spin-off from it, fine and wonderful. Let's move on. Number 5. Some people were shocked that I came up with Rachel Maddow. And I'll tell you why I did. Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. She is an absolute powerhouse. Whether you agree with her politics or not, I thought her chart, this is an astrology chart, astrology class, I thought her chart was remarkable to look at. She has incredible abilities, and where her abilities come from is this Saturn. This Saturn allows her to keep it together. She's making this stuff as she's going along. She's not reading cue cards. She's fresh every night. She has got wrapped around the midheaven, Chiron and Eris, 12, 16, 14. Now, I have not stressed enough in this class because this is not an advanced class, but that's why I put this table here. This table shows you what planet is sitting at the midpoint of 2 other planets. Very significant. What third planet is sitting at the midpoint between 2 other planets, opposite or with them? So, if you have, for instance, if you have Venus-Mars, everybody's got Venus-Mars in their chart. And Venus-Mars are very charming energies because male and female. In everybody's chart, where your Venus-Mars midpoint is the center of your charisma. So if you see somebody with Uranus sitting between Pluto and Mars, they really have pizzazz, like Elvis. If you see somebody like, well, Elvis was more like Pluto was at the middle of Venus and Mars. If you've got somebody who's brilliant, that has like Pluto, Mercury, intense mind, and they've also got Uranus at the midpoint, whoo! These are very powerful, not to be taken for granted aspects. It does require that you look deeper. It's not basic astrology. So we see that at play in her chart. She is a powerhouse, this woman. I almost can't stand to listen to her because she goes so fast. She overwhelms me. I have to turn the volume way down because she's just so Uranian. She's flying. She's a genius. Okay. So look at what you've got here. You've got Uranus at 12, Eris at 12, the midheaven at 14, and Chiron at 16. We've got a good birth time, 12:23 in the afternoon. And widely, these 3 bodies are all opposite Uranus. That's why she's going so fast. She can keep up that quick. She can process that quick. As you know, she graduated from Oxford. or I'm sorry, she was a Rhodes Scholar. Rhodes Scholar. Okay, and it's all in Aries. Sun, Moon, Venus. Sun, Venus in Aries. Thank God the Moon is in Pisces, and the Mercury's in Pisces. Slow her down a little bit, and she's got that beautiful center of Aries, the midheaven, and Chiron, all trine to Neptune. That's why you get a feeling from her that she's benevolent. She talks about some very nasty subjects. She could get very uncolorful if she wanted to, and she doesn't. And she stays very disciplined. And that's why she's really lucky that she's got a great big bucket pattern to Saturn controlling her lips. Saturn in Gemini. This is no happenstance. This comes about from, she's probably been some kind of Roman senator for lifetimes or whatever, I don't know. The past lifetimes, she's very far advanced. This is an avatar. This is a woman who's come out of the closet a long time ago for gay people. I'm sure they're very proud of her. She's had a main post in society for years, even if you don't like her station. You can tell she doesn't care what you are. She's very pro-human, very fast, political science genius. Look at the ninth house. Ninth house is your education, your philosophy, broadcasting. It's very, very clear. This chart is very special. Now let's look at Pluto. When you see a conglomeration of planets, don't rush across them. Go across the zodiac slowly. 2, almost 3. Go right across slowly. What does 3 hit? 3 actually hits in here somewhere between the Moon and Venus. So that Pluto is hitting that Venus Moon, and I think that's part of her being gay and being out front with it and being real relaxed about it. Very intriguing. But to me, what really sells this chart is how prolific these major bodies are. Kind of funny how they're both opposite Uranus and Pluto. And without this, she would fall to pieces. She would fly into 100 pieces. Just too brilliant, too fast, too quick. Okay. Who was the one I wanted to show? Oh, I wanted to show you in Stephen King's chart. This is interesting. The final chart on Stephen King. Not that I'm crazy about his work, but he is one of the most prolific authors of all time. We got to see where that comes from. So you see in Stephen King's chart, he is a Virgo, okay? And he's got Eris right near the top of the chart. When Carrie was published and turned into a movie, let me see. Pluto was here. Pluto was here in the late 60s, right? Pluto was going all over these planets. So what drives this guy? And then you got to ask the secondary question, why is he always doing creepy stuff? Well, one of the things that drives him is he has 2 Leo planets. Leo planets need to be heard. They need to be published. Look at the trine. The moon trines the midpoint exactly. The moon is 16, 14, 18. So that means he's very comfortable in his own skin. And this means, you can say it or not, I'm not an expert on his books, but his books are a way of making us look in the mirror. His books are a way of us to look at our dark side. And I would think that the some of the scary stuff would come about from the Chiron in Scorpio, the Jupiter in Scorpio, and the Chiron is square to Pluto and Saturn. So I would think he's got some very heavy crosses to carry, which are indicated by Pluto, Saturn, and certainly by Chiron in Scorpio. But again, you see, well, first of all, the traditional ruling planet of Virgo is Mercury. Mercury's right on this line, right at the midpoint between Pluto, Moon, conjunct Neptune. So the Mercury's strong. And if we go with my thought, that Chiron is the ruler of Virgo, we see the ruler Chiron in Scorpio square to Pluto. So the purpose of this evening was not to drag you through the sweat of looking at so many charts. You get the idea, but it was to show you the appreciation of the greats. And I think every case here tonight, the greats all had strong connections to Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and Eris. That's why you will see charts of people that don't, and they don't feel inspired. They don't feel that inspired to do so. So I think what we'll do is we will shut this down, and we'll open it up for talk and questions and answers. We have plenty of time. We don't always have that. Say thank you to our YouTubers. And this will be up on YouTube tomorrow. Rick DiClemente's page on YouTube. My website, starself.com. If you're interested in my book, The Exquisite Zodiac, you can still buy the book on the website. For $10, you can buy the Kindle version for $5. And if you're broke, you can get the book for free on the PDF version. That's on starself.com. Thank you for joining us. Next week, if you're interested in joining us, go to starself.com/unplugged. Also, go there and remind you to sign up for my mailing list. Then you'll be reminded each week of what the topic is. Thank you and good night.